this is me. I'm an illustrator based here in London. I do a variety of things, but mostly drawing, painting, and stuff that mostly exists in like the print world. But I do kind of venture off into other things, digital, some products, basically anything fun that anyone will let me do and will also provide payment for. Yeah, so thank you very much for coming. We're going to see how this works. This is me at my first ever artist talk. Show and tell. I think this is grade 3. Showing off my favorite video games. It was a great time. And this is my first crush, Tiffany. This is after I had the worst hair in the world and the worst jacket, which actually came back in style this year. Yeah, this is my actual first crush, Tom Welling from Smallville. The intro was my favorite part of the show. So yeah, that's him. This is me in high school. I put this in to show everyone that I have grown and don't look like this anymore. So happy about that. And this is me at Fanshawe College, sleeping. I did a lot of that and my friend documented it. So that was really nice. I really loved being at Fanshawe College. I really had a tough time deciding whether or not I was going to kind of go to school. Growing up, I made artwork all the time. I rented those like fun DVDs that like tell you how to draw an eye for like an hour and a half. And I did those with my mom, and she like took me to the library and had me rent them all the time. And then when it came to growing up and deciding where to go to school, I chose college and I chose graphic design because it was more practical in my eyes. It was easier for me to kind of make a career out of it. And that was a decision that both benefited me and hindered my career in a way. I learned a lot, and everything that I learned I still apply in my work and I still use, and I'm able to make presentations like this one and stuff that I put online. So that's really cool too. But there are benefits to doing both. And at this point, I was graduating college and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't really have a passion for graphic design anymore, and I was really missing making art. I hadn't made it in like 3 years. And so that was a really tough time because this part that had kind of felt so integral to who I was as a person had kind of vanished and had been replaced by this like very sad, overworked student in front of a computer. So I said, after graduation, I did make it there. Here's me at graduation, holding my $18,000 piece of paper. It was a great, great time. And I said, I don't know what I want to be, so I'm not going to stay here. I'm going to go to Montreal where everything is perfect and great and wonderful and there are no problems. So I did. And when I went to Montreal, I started making art again for the first time in a very long time. And I didn't know what I wanted it to look like anymore. I had been so out of touch with any form of art that I had made as a kid and growing up, and it had been kind of stored away and stowed away forever. So I started doodling again. I was in Toronto before leaving to Montreal with my sister, and I said, do you know what I've always wanted? She says, what? And I said, a 64 pack of Crayola markers. So I bought one, and I just used that for like a month, 2 months, I think it was, just to see what I could make again. And I started following other illustrators online and kind of gaining inspiration from them and kind of emulating their work, which I'll kind of go into a little bit, but it's really a great way to kind of figure out what your style is and how you can kind of grow from there, from kind of ground zero to the beginning again. So started making art again then, and I decided that I was done kind of feeling sad and feeling stuck, and so I said, I'm going to go after something even if it feels impossible. And so I came home and I said, hello. My mom said, hello, welcome home. And I said, I have no more money anymore. I spent it all. And so I said, I need a job. And she says, great. What design agency are you going to apply to? And I said, none of them. I said, I don't want to, thank you. And so my parents were very confused because I just spent 3 years getting a diploma that I wasn't going to use. And I said, I really don't want to do that. I want to make art again, and I can do that. And I know I can if I work as an illustrator. And they both kind of looked at me like, we don't get it. So then I showed them some examples online, and I said, oh, look at these illustrators. They like land big brand deals with like Gucci. And so that kind of convinced them. You know? We'll see if that ever happens for me. But that was kind of the beginning of that era. And so I convinced my parents to let me kind of start a studio space in my home. And at first it looked like this. It was just like a desk and then this other desk that my friend gave me, which I still have. I still have these 2 desks, still use them. In my bedroom, as you can see, my bed is very tidy for the photo, but it didn't look like that most of the time. And I was just working here and I was just trying new stuff and basically like begging anybody who would pay attention to me to like let me make art for them. And at first it was a lot of like free work. Like, I'll be honest, it was a lot of free work and it was a lot of saying yes to things, really no matter what they were. I was in this really weird transitional period where I was still identifying as a graphic designer, but I really wanted to be an illustrator, but I had no skills as an illustrator. So everyone was like, oh, great, you make art. Like, can you make me a logo? And I was like, I guess. I don't really want to, but sure. And so I just did that for a long time. I just said, yes, yes, yes. Whatever you pay me, I don't care. If it's nothing, maybe I'll just have fun doing it. And I did some of that stuff. You can't really see it very well here. But basically, a lot of these opportunities were born out of pure chance, which was very nice. So I had a friend who I ran into at a protest here in the city by chance who worked or who was a student at Queens and led like a club there. And she said, we need merchandise for our club that's geared towards equal rights for women. And I said, I would love to do a project like that. So I did. And I created some apparel that they sold to fundraise money for a women's center in Kingston. And then that led to the first ever press that I had, which was a small interview about this work that I had done. So that was really cool. My friend Sarah in Montreal started her own literary magazine and said, do you want to make art for it? I said, yes. And so I started making covers for them. These are all hand painted. These are the nicer ones. There were some that weren't great. And as my priority list got longer, I also kind of stopped putting things that weren't giving me an income lower on the list. So that means things I was doing for free, I ended up like rushing very, very late, which was hard because some of the stuff was really rewarding, but sometimes I thought I had a project that was, I would rather spend a lot more time doing this. So it was all kind of a learning lesson. And I learned lots of stuff through that. I moved out and I had a different studio space and it was in a corner of an even smaller bedroom. So this was where I was doing most of my work there for a while. And I increasingly got frustrated with this setup because I think it's healthy to have a work-life balance. But I think it's healthy to try and differentiate your studio and your bedroom and your home if it works for you, because you get to divide when you're working and when you're not. And that, as your career progresses, that gets increasingly more important, because the more you meld those two things, the more you tie your personal value to your work, the more you tie your time to productivity. And then if you're not focusing on also being a person, you can't really be an artist. So I decided to kind of move out of here, and I invested in a proper studio somewhere else, not in my home. And that also came with its challenges, like leaving your house to go to your studio is also another challenge. Paying it is a challenge. And so at this point I was working a day job, and I was actually more like a night job. I was serving. And I was paying my studio this way. And this is a really great quote that's actually on one of the studio doors in the building that I'm in, which is this whole idea of tending to the space that you're working in, and the value of it, and how you can kind of go there and make something new and then explore and walk away from it. So that was really great. So here's what my studio space looks like now. It looks a little bit different than this. This is when I first moved in. And it's been really nice to have a dedicated space. So if you're able to do so, I do really recommend it. This is a space that is within a building of other artists, but we all kind of work independently behind closed doors. There are benefits to that, and there are losses to it as well, mostly because I think I thrive in a co-working environment better. I think I am more accountable that way. And so that could be something that you really should consider before gaining a studio space that is alone. Good Sport is a great space because all the artists work in the same space. So you can kind of collaborate with each other and also keep each other on track. And that's really great. Right now I work on my own, and I try and have friends over when I can to come and make art with me. So I had everything I needed. I had a studio space, I had some projects and some experience. And the problem was that nobody was hiring me. Nobody knew who I was. And so that was really like tough to think, well, I'm doing everything right. Why is nobody approaching me? I'm putting things online. Why is nobody approaching me? And the truth is I had to go out into the world and properly tell people like, hi, my name is Andre Garzon. I draw things. do you want to pay me? And so I did some of that. And so I did some networking, and networking is super fun if anyone has done it before. You go and you meet complete strangers that are typically twice your age, and you hand them a business card and you say hi, and they say, tell me about your business. And you're like, oh, business? Like, I don't know. I don't know about that. But it really forced me to burst out of this bubble of kind of solitude, and made me meet a lot of people very quickly. And some of them led to some work, but a majority of them just led to very kind of passive interactions. And that kind of sucked because I felt like I was dividing my persona into two people. So I was like network Andre that was like turned on at the event and was like, hello, I know things about business, and I know things about like money, and I know things about like working with big deals. But in the reality, I was back in my studio, like kind of Googling every 2 seconds, like, how do you charge someone? And so this like division ended up making these interactions really difficult to have. And so I said, screw that. I don't really want to go to like these networking events, which are now called like business meetups. Like they changed the name so that they can like try and trick you, but it's still a networking event. And so I said, I don't really care about this anymore. I'd rather just meet other people who are doing things that are similar to what I'm doing, or creating initiatives in the city, or other artists that are practicing. And so I started doing that when I'm living now in like the Old East Village area. And there was plenty of artists and plenty of entrepreneurs that weren't sleazy and weren't like trying to exchange a business card with me. They were just doing what their best, which was what I was doing. And so I went and met a lot of them and did a lot of that meeting, and a lot of integrating myself into the community. And this is really important because at the end of the day, building those relationships was a lot more valuable than handing out 50 business cards at an event. And I had a mentor at this time who was saying, like, don't bring business cards. And it was the opposite of what I've been told forever. I like had paid someone to make me business cards, and he was like, you don't do that. He's like, go and collect them if you really want to, and then contact those people and build a relationship. So it was all this emphasis on building relationships and building relationships. And it led me to learning that this button doesn't work. That a lot of the projects that I was accepting at the time were making me unhappy because I was interacting with people that had nothing to do with what I wanted to do. So I was going to these networking events that were all about business, and somebody wanted to create some product that like didn't really better anyone's life and just made them money. And then they wanted me to make work for it. And it didn't make me inspired, and it didn't make me motivated to make anything else. And if anything, it just took time away from work that I actually wanted to do for myself. So I went from saying yes to everything to learn to kind of say no to stuff. And this is still an ongoing lesson. I'm in the midst of saying no to somebody right now. And it's hard because there's two sides to it, right? Like you need food, and you need somewhere to live, and you need somewhere to work. And so that costs money, and some people are offering you money. You're like, yeah, but you have to think about it that when you say yes to something that you don't want to do, one, you're miserable. Two, you kind of don't really want to do it. So you tend to procrastinate more. You tend to not put as much heart into it. And three, you take away that time, that valuable time from yourself to learn and to grow as an artist. And that was happening to me a lot. And so I had to kind of take a step back and think about, maybe I'm not the person who wants to have 50 projects in 1 month, or a whole bunch of them at once and juggling them all, and maybe have one that actually kind of pays off. And so I was doing work that I would finish and be like, that's so great, I got paid, but I don't really want to show anybody this because I don't want anyone to hire me to make this again. So that was a learning lesson that I had to take on and keep thinking about. And then it came back to this idea of the power of friendship, and how these relationships that I was building over time, and showing genuine support for others in the city was really what was actually kind of breeding these really cool opportunities. And so I met people who were trying their best and were trying to start something on their own, and they needed the support. And they weren't offering maybe as much money as somebody else would, but it was a lot more gratifying to do that kind of work. So my friend Cameron said, do you want to make the album art for artwork for my EP? I don't have a ton of money, but I can pay you. And this was like one of the best projects I did that whole year. And so that was cool. I approached the city of London and the Pride and asked if I could make a poster for them. And they said, yeah. And that was really, really cool. So it was taking initiative, but it was, going to the Pride Art Show the year prior and meeting the people who were in charge. And then if I saw them in public, I'd say hello. And it wasn't like, hi, did you remember me, that I'm the person who wanted to do work for you? Like, it was just, hello, how's it going? And this relationships built over time. And so you have to be patient. This is from Art Review, which I just wrapped up with my friend Adi, who's sitting back there. And that was born out of a beautiful friendship that started over a year ago. And so these things maybe take a little longer to grow into real opportunities, something you can show off. But they're, by that point, so much more valuable to you as an artist. So when you're talking about value and you're talking about what your work means to you, you also have to think about what your work means to other people. And basically, I went through a time where I was trying to juggle all this and trying to get jobs and stuff, but I was also struggling to get people to understand that I couldn't make something for like $10 because it wasn't sustainable. And trying to teach that to people, especially like if you're meeting them for the first time, is really, really difficult. And these people are the ones that are like, I want to hire you because I want to make this thing. Without you, it wouldn't look as good, but I also want you to do it for free. And you have to kind of like look at them straight in the eyes and like, did you just hear what you said out loud? Like, you can't do this without me, but you want me to do it for nothing. And my time is valuable. My resources are valuable. Like, I'm paying for all this myself, this whole show right here. And so if I want to make something for you, you have to meet me halfway, essentially. And so I did some learning, and I said, I need somebody who's going to teach me how to essentially teach others that what I'm doing is valuable, to ask for what I think I'm worth. So obviously it starts with a lot of research. What are other people making? And there's resources out there that I didn't know about, but that were like pretty much there for my taking. Like a book that's really like the guide to charging people for what is correct. Like, that's a whole book that exists that somebody wrote, and you can use it to figure out what you should be charging and what everyone else is charging, so you don't devalue and you don't undercut your colleagues, because they're all trying to make the same, right? So I did a mastermind with a designer here in London. His name is Jason Recker, and I met a few friends through there, and I also kind of learned he was like a hard hitter because he makes a lot of money. And so he said, no, you're going to be straightforward. Like, you tell them how much it's worth, and if they say no, then maybe it's not the client you want. And I was like, not the client I want. I want a client. And he said, no, you just wait, and you keep doing your work, and you keep posting it, and you keep doing it until somebody who's willing to pay you will pay you for what you're making. And then you move on, and you keep going. And so that's what he taught me mostly. I applied for a mentorship program through the Canadian Gay Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. That's a mouthful. And I had to be matched up with somebody who was like an industry professional. And so I got matched up with this like 6-foot bald, like Mr. Clean looking gay man. He's amazing. His name is Greg, and he's a motivational speaker, ironically. So I met with him a few days ago, and I was like, hi, I'm going to talk to people for the first time. Can you tell me what to do? And so he's been like a huge, huge resource to me, a friend to me. And he kind of taught me to have drive. He's a very driven person. And so I got taught, ask for what you're worth. I got taught drive. And lastly, I applied for an incubator program called Leap In through Leap Junction, which is a incubator based out of Fanshawe. And what they do is they pick 10 businesses, they give them $5,000. Wow. I never had that much money before in my life. And so, and then they kind of take you through a 9-week course on how to be a real business. And so I saw this, and a few friends of mine had done it as well. And so I applied on a whim, and I said, you're not going to hire an artist, because why would you give an artist $5,000 who has no knowledge? And went in for an interview, and my mentor, Greg, he's the very driven one. So he said, no, you're going to like really nail this. I know you are. I'm going to help you. And I wrote this proposal, and I went in and I pitched myself. I said, hi, this is the art I make. I think this can be a business. Here's others who are doing it. Essentially, like, will you please pick me? And they did, and that was a really big moment. I was on the phone like with my sister, like maybe 2 weeks before my interview, and I said, if I get this, it will change my life. It will change my life. And so I got it, and my life was changed in many ways, good and bad, because a lot of success at one quick time also means that you immediately place a very high standard on yourself. And once I graduated from that 2-month program, I ended, and I was like, oh God, I don't have somebody holding my hand again, and what do I do? And so there was a big kind of crevice there where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I thought I did, but I don't. So there was a lot of things that I learned from this program. It was really, really awesome, but more than anything, it taught me confidence. So I finished this program, and I said, I may not have all the answers, but I know I can do this. I can do this. I can figure it out. I have somebody who's teaching me what I'm worth. I have somebody who's teaching me how to be driven. And I have a team that taught me that I'm confident. And this was like life-changing, like life-changing. Because the most important thing I learned was like, believe in yourself. Like all of the indigo cheesy like notebooks were right. Like believe in yourself. It's like groundbreaking stuff, right? Like, and so I was like, all I had to do was believe in myself. Like that was it. And so this like, obviously like cheesy, like look at this. But if you break it down, like believe in yourself is really all about trust. And so it's about trusting both yourself and your surroundings. And I hadn't done that before. I was taking on jobs, I was taking on clients, and I would sit there like paralyzed. I'd be like, I got it. And then I'd be like, what if they hate it? What if they want their money back? What if I sit down and try and do it and what I promised them I can't deliver on? And it was just immediately, I was just hitting barriers and barriers and barriers of, I don't trust myself. There was this immediate hesitation when I sat down on my desk to try and make something. And this is like kind of leads into why procrastination is so like self-sabotaging, because you think I can't do this, so I'm not going to even try, but I've already signed up for it, so I'm going to have to eventually do it. And then I wait till the very last minute to do it. And then I did do it, and I proved to myself that I was wrong all along. And then that cycle just repeats itself over and over and over again. And it's really damaging to yourself as an artist and to your practice, because if you can't show up and you can't try, then nothing's ever going to show up on the paper, right? So I learned a lot about trust. I learned a lot about how everything that I made myself was unique because I made it. Nobody else could make it again. And so that was a big part of realizing that I didn't have to constantly be proving that I was different, that my style was different, that I was better. I was going to make something and it was going to look inherently different because I had made it. And so that was really, really, really inspiring to me. Because I didn't have to worry about standing out. I already did. So I was talking to my friend and I said, I was kind of like so encapsulated with this idea of like, I'm just focusing on what my creative center is. I don't have to worry about being different anymore because I am, but I'm still trying to get to what that is. And so I said, like, I was trying to basically say like honing in, and I said, we're all circling the drain, but like in a fun way. Because we're all constantly trying to get to this creative center, to what are we actually trying to say? What are we actually trying to make? And that's really daunting, but it's also kind of a relief to know that as soon as we sit down and we make something, we're a little tiny bit closer every single time. Even if it's not a success, whatever you make that day or whatever you consider it to be successful, you are getting slowly closer and closer to that center. And so there's a really great quote by Bjork, which she posted on Reddit, funnily enough, basically talking about this concept about how creativity was not this thing that we had and we held and it stayed still. It was like this creature that moved around in our lives, and it moved around in everybody. She says creativity always lives somewhere in everyone. And the fun part is kind of not pinning it to a wall and trying to make it what you want it to be, but chasing it around and seeing where it takes you. And maybe that means trying to make 16 different sauce recipes. Maybe it means like discovering the humor of a friend. But allowing yourself to chase this creature around will take you to new and unexpected places. And that can happen within your discipline or outside of it, right? So she's basically promoting this idea of like, don't try and tack it to a wall. Don't try and make it what you think it should look like. Just let it be whatever it is. So that was a really, really kind of cool thing to see that she was talking about. So I did that. I said, can I draw people live? I don't really know if anyone really cares about that anymore. And I did it for the first time for free, and then I did it the second time for money, and then I did it for money again and again. Because it's really like labor intensive. And I usually just don't take breaks because I think it's really fun. And I love meeting new people while I'm doing it. And I started doing it, and then people in the city were like, this is actually really cool. Like, will you do it here? And I said, really? Sure. And so I went and did it some more. Recently I did it at Museum London, which was like one of the biggest versions of it. And it was really like a full circle moment because I had showed at Museum London like whatever, like grade 12, however many years ago that was. Like I showed a little piece of paper on procrastination, and here I was like years after hosting something and being a part of a big community event and making art and having it support me and my living. So that was really cool. So I did that and I said, cool. And then I did some writing. So this was an article that I did for C Collective, and they asked me to write about pride. And I said, what a perfect topic to write about, of course. I'd love to write about being gay. And so I did that, and I'd never written for anything before, and I gave it a shot, and that was really, really great opportunity. And then I submitted to a group show for the first time ever, and that was here, and it was for a group show that involved some of the people who are in this room. And I'd never ever said like my art can be in a show, and so that was a new experience for me, and that was also very exciting. So this all taught me that I didn't have to constantly be worrying about what I was making, but just making it, whatever it was. And so Lisa Congdon, which was a very big inspiration to me, she was a very successful illustrator, kind of put this in a perfect sentence, which was, it's not magic, it's just work. And that's so liberating, because that means that every time you interact with your artwork, every time you sit down to make it, you don't have to put pressure on it. You don't have to put preconceived notions on it. You don't have to expect it to be good. You just have to show up and make it. So show up every day and make it. And she's always saying this, just show up and do the work, just show up and do the work, and make a lot of art and make it all the time, because for every 10 things you make, maybe one nugget will really resonate. Maybe one nugget will really resonate with you or with somebody else. And then you can take that and you can make it into something bigger. And so I'm kind of learning that right now. And big process is that it's just a lot of sketchbooking. So I have my sketchbooks there at the back, and you're welcome to look through them if you'd like. Because it's allowing yourself to explore and to learn and grow on your own, and with the influence of others, but just showing up and doing it all the time will really help kind of take your artwork to whatever you want it to be. And then the second part is trusting that what you're making is relevant, trusting that what you're making is what somebody else will need. So Adam J. Kurtz put this really beautifully, because you worry so much about what my art means to other people, if it's translating properly, and that's not really the objective, right? People will connect with things if it's relevant to them, and that's why there's so much different kinds of art, and that's why so many different kinds of people are successful, because it's not about making one cookie cutter perfect image that's going to connect with somebody. It's about just making a lot of it and hoping that somebody does, and trusting that somebody will. And so that kind of will remove a lot of pressure from you as well. So this idea of that relationship with others and how we connect with others and how we interact with others' feedback is really important, because for a long time, I think artists, and myself included, try and protect ourselves. I try and protect myself from negative feedback, from comparing myself to other people, thinking that I'm not good enough, and then I don't spend enough time believing the good things that people say about me, when they say them to my face, when they write them in a comment, whatever it is. And to break down this barrier and to allow yourself to believe what good things other people are saying about you will motivate you, will make you a better artist, will make you more disciplined. Because when someone says to you, oh, you look like you've been working so hard, and the first thing you do is say, oh no, I haven't, you're completely contradicting exactly what they said. You are working so hard, or else they wouldn't say that. It wouldn't show, right? So your progress is always going to be under your own criticism, your own scrutiny at every moment, unless you allow yourself to take a step back and to say, that's not true. What other people are seeing in me is what's true. And so that has kind of been very, very life-changing in my work. At the same time, it's been really important to learn about, like I said, this balance between myself as a person and myself as an artist. And especially when you throw like making money and making a living into the mix, it's important to not tie our personal value as people to our artwork, to our productivity, because it really hurts us in the long run. If we think that we need to be producing at all times, one, will probably produce less, and two, we'll be way more critical of what we do produce and if it was worth whatever time we spent on it. So if we put this like tangible value on our time, then that means that we do less exploring, because we think that every time I sit down to draw something, it better be good because I spent a half hour making it and I don't get that half hour back. And removing those ties, removing our direct link to us as artists and us as people allows us to fulfill the things that we need to do as people before we can be artists, like putting food on the table, like having friends, like seeing family, like nurturing yourself before you even try and make anything that anyone else is going to see. And the best part about this is Mari Andrew was the one that put it best, was being a patron of your own art. And what that means is allowing yourself to almost buy time from yourself, and then using it to make something, wherever your creativity lies. And that's really life-changing, because when we try to make art our sole income, our sole resource for our lives, for as people, we automatically put a lot of pressure on ourselves. I put a lot of pressure on myself to make something good because it's going to sustain me. And then that means that I'm comparing myself all the time to people who are sustaining themselves on their art. Like, why can't I do that on my own? Why are they, even people who are like 20 years into their career, and I'm thinking like, oh, why can't I do that? Well, because they're 20 years into their career. Like, ask them where they were 20 years ago. You know what I mean? So comparing ourselves to other artists only hurts us, obviously, but it also hinders us from making art, from allowing us to explore all these things that I've said over and over again, but they're also connected. They're also tied together. And especially, like, I would find myself comparing myself to people who like were completely different industries, like filmmaking. And I was like, I'm not even making films, and I'm mad that this person's like doing better than I am, but I'm not even in that industry. So why am I jealous about this? I should be focusing on what I am making now. And that was another lesson I had to learn. Basically, it's a lot of introspection, and it's a lot of kind of going back and asking yourself, where was I 5 years ago? Where was I 10 years ago? I was right around the time before I quit working at a restaurant. I was battling with this idea of like, I think I'm stunted. Like, I think I'm not going to get anywhere. I think I'm stuck. And I was talking to my sister on the phone, and I said, if I think about it objectively, like, I have everything that I wanted. Like, I am out and proud. I am living on my own. I am making art again. I have a studio space. Like, I've ticked off so many boxes in this like success meter that I've built for myself. And I still feel so unhappy, like so stuck, like I'm not progressing. And then it was like me saying that out loud to her hit me right in the face, because I said, well, I'm putting myself to the standard that I'm never going to fulfill if I continue to not acknowledge the goals that I have hit. And when you don't constantly remind yourself, like, I am progressing, I have grown, and whatever measures that is, it doesn't have to be those ones that I named. It could be just, I made something today, and maybe I'll make something tomorrow, and hopefully I do. And then that being your measure of success, it really allowed me to think about, maybe I should be focusing more on the goals that I'm hitting now, that I've already hit, instead of immediately setting myself up for some new ones. And that's not saying that it's bad to have goals, to do some goal setting, but always remember that where you came from is worth so much. You have grown so much as a person. You have so much knowledge. If I asked myself 5 years ago how to even like send an invoice, I wouldn't know how to answer. And these are things that are so minimal, they get lost in the mayhem of it all, right? And all the learning and all the experiences. So I'm trying not to lose sight of those things. I encourage other artists to not lose sight of those things. I encourage other artists to focus on what they're making now, what the benefits of that is, and constantly reminding myself that this is like a Venn diagram, because they're all mixed. Everything I've learned and everything I will learn and everything that's happening right now are all connected in that way. And so that has been kind of what I've been learning in the past few years. I'm really just trying to allow myself to do kind of untargeted research, to learn about myself as a person, as an artist, to constantly try and divide that line while not losing touch on either side, right? My identity is both of those things, and I want to nurture both of them. And so that's what I'm trying to do and encourage everyone else to do. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? I will answer literally anything about art. This is the other thing. I want to be transparent because I think like people think it's like smoke and mirrors, and it's really just me being like, sometimes I still Google things every 2 seconds. You know what I mean? So I want to provide the information that is easy and available to people and just save them the trouble of having to go through the pain of learning it in a hard way. Like, if I can just give you the answer, I will. You know what I mean? It'll give you 10 days of extra life. So, yeah. Does anybody have any?
I have a question.
Yes.
Where did you hear about Lisa Conway?
Where did I hear about her?
Yeah.
Where?
How?
Oh, how? Yeah. I think just like Instagram. Yeah, I think she has a big Instagram presence,
Okay.
And I'm really inspired by her Instagram presence because she's very honest. I didn't touch on this in the talk because it's like a big topic, but essentially, transparency is your best friend. It helps build trust between you, your fans, and your clients, because especially now in like the digital age, people want to look really polished, and so we are always trying to connect to authenticity. And there's no better way to be authentic than to just be honest about both the good and the bad, celebrating both of those things. Like, I had a really great month where I made lots of fun work, and then I had a month where I couldn't make any work because I was so frustrated and so blocked and so depressed or whatever it is. So that's how I heard about her, and that's kind of the philosophy that I try and take from her. Also, she's like I'm doing exactly what I shouldn't do, but she's like a really, really great worker. Like, she's ethically, like, she has a good work ethic, and so she's like a powerhouse woman. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm listening to a podcast where she's interviewed right now.
Oh, cool.
In the middle of a podcast.
Yeah.
And she's talking about how you have to discipline yourself and set goals if
Mm-hmm.
you want to achieve something.
She has a really great workshop on time management, and essentially she has a very pragmatic way of working, which is how she's like built her empire in like 11 years. Like, she is fully like, she's like an incorporated company, and she has created like passive income. So she's very, very practical in that way because she's like 52, I think now. So she's thinking about, like, she started making art when she was like in her early 30s, made it a career in her 40s. So she was approaching like times when she also wanted to retire. She didn't want to be working, but she was enjoying making art and making a living from it. And she was really smart in doing so because having that really like self-directed, disciplined work ethic has helped her feel comfortable in her like older age. I don't like to say that because she considers herself very young. She's a mad cyclist. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
How much work do you make that's like for a client or for something that's paid versus just like work that you're just making for yourself, and how do you kind of differentiate?
I definitely do more client work because it's the stuff that like has to be done, so I have no choice. Like I said, like, forcing yourself to make personal work. There's a really great artist and illustrator who makes YouTube videos all about this, about making the work that you want to be hired for, essentially. So it's good to have paid clients, and hopefully they're hiring you to do something relevant or in your style. But if you say, I really wanted to design like fabric for a company or whatever it is, then take some time away from your client schedule and make a pattern, whatever it looks like, and then try it over and over again until you kind of master it, and then share it, obviously, and hopefully somebody will see it. Or you can pitch it yourself and say, I think I can make a fabric if you guys hire me to do it. So personal work can turn into professional work. You just have to make it first. So you can't expect to be hired to make something that you want to if you have not demonstrated that you're even capable of making it at all. So I think I lean more towards doing client work because it takes precedent immediately. But I'm constantly having this battle of making personal work too, and also having a personal art career, because I also want to like show at galleries and I want to do those things, not just stuff that exists in like a corporate setting. So yeah. Anybody else? Yes. I did have an intention and I completely forgot about it. Okay, well, we can do it now. Sure. I dropped all my things, but give me 1 second. Does everyone have like a semi-surface they can use to draw on this? Yeah, even if it's like a phone. You're not drawing anything like elaborate. Okay, we're all going to do it together. So everyone, take your trusty pencil ultimate device for making art. You literally do not need anything else. It's honestly my favorite thing to use. And paper, it's best complement. And you're going to close your eyes. So everyone's going to close their eyes, me too. And you're going to draw a flower the best you can. So just draw a flower from memory. And then when you're done, just open your eyes. But turn the paper over before you look at it. Is everyone done? No, we're still waiting. It's okay. Take your time. This is some beautiful flowers. You guys are taking...
It has elements.
You guys added petals, didn't you? And like a garden behind it.
What do you mean added petals to my flower?
I don't know what that means. Okay, so everyone's going to turn their paper around, but then look at like the person's next to you.
I can barely see them. Good job.
Okay. This is what mine looks like.
Is this someone you
I lost it. It got away from me.
These are cute. Yeah.
So the idea is... Oh, I love this. I don't want to interrupt you. The idea is that everyone knows how to draw a flower, right? Like everybody knows what a flower looks like. Everybody knows what a flower looks like and can draw one most likely. But you had to trust your body to do it without you scrutinizing what it was looking like as you were making it. And it's completely 100% unique. I don't think you could even replicate it if you tried, right? So this now exists and will never be made again. And only I can make it. Only I did make it, really, is what I'm saying. And so you have now made original 100% unique artwork, even though you all drew a flower.
Everybody sign it.
Yeah, and so everybody sign it because you just made 100% unique original artwork. And I make people do this all the time and they think it's like the silliest thing. Like you are now an artist with a signed work, edition 1 of 1. You know what I mean? You sell this for whatever you want or give it away, like whatever value you want to put on it. But that was the idea, that you can make art and you can make it with your eyes closed and you can trust your body to know what to do. Does anyone have any other questions? No? Okay, I want to say a big thank you to Shannon and Zane and Good Sport. Please do not miss any of the other good talks. There are going to be one every month for the rest of the year. How awesome is that? Programming for the whole year with a different artist every time. So not just illustrators, it's going to be performance artists, it's going to be drag queens, like everything. So come and see the amazing artists that are based out of this amazing city, London, Ontario. Okay.